Hey everyone, welcome back. Holden Caulfield here, and I thought I'd dive into one of my more recent tracks I've been working on. My project's been going forward pretty well recently. I have a lot of new material. Honestly, a lot of the new material isn't even sounding like some of the stuff I did when I started this project originally, so I'm probably gonna have to make some adjustments for what goes together, but I'm not gonna worry too much about that right now. I'm just creating new stuff and having a lot of fun with it. I thought it'd be fun to show some vocal stuff that I've been working on. This is a track that I wrote when I was on Smith Island. It's one of two tracks I wrote when I was there. And I brought it back and I worked it out more and kind of fleshed it out to more of like a solid piece. It's slow moving. It's kind of like sea-esque, kind of oceany kind of song. So I'm going with like a theme of like being lost at sea with this track because it feels like that kind of vibe. So I thought it'd be fun to drop some vocals down on the chorus and just kind of walk through that and show you what I'm thinking with that. Let me play the track for you so you guys have an idea of what it sounds like. It'll probably change quite a bit from the final version to what it is now, but this will give you an idea. So this would be the chorus. I put down some like backing vocal kind of stuff here. And I think this will sound really great when I lay in the final vocals on the mix, but I'll bring those down. I'll bring this part down significantly so it's more of a background kind of flavor to it. At one point I actually had those going through the whole song, but it's too much. And this will break into the next verse. And I might do something musically here, or I'll probably just put down a vocal verse here. Or extend this part out so it's a little longer. I'm trying to also break up the monotonous formula that I'm using for all these tracks and just deviate from the typical writing structures. So in verse, I'm going to go back into the chorus here. And after this part of the chorus, we drop into the bridge, which kind of takes us out of the song as a continuous. And it speeds up a little bit. I was experimenting with this mute drum, which I think has like a cool kind of vibe to it. And here we go. And I kind of drive it out with piano. I'm going to do some probably like falsetto vocals over this, which I think will be a lot of fun. I think this is going to be a really great vocal part to lay down on here. This part's cool. I got some droney echoes going in the background. There it goes. I love playing with those drone sounds. It's like a big theme through this whole album is have like this ambient, atmospheric bass underneath. This also has some really great sub-bass parts I put underneath it because I just want the bass to like really carry a lot of these tracks. I want the bass to be like a big backing factor with the drums to filling out my voice in the piano part, so it's just more beefy and more atmospheric. me see that low bass. And I'm hoping when I get this sent off to be mastered and possibly produced, we'll bring more of that bass in. Cool. So that's it. So let's drop onto the vocals and I'll show you a little bit of what I'm thinking for the chorus. Alright, I'm set up for vocals. Let's see what happens with this. I ran through this a couple times just to get an idea for where it's going to land, and I'm hoping that it works out well, because I might double for this. It tends to work well on certain parts of choruses, so I'll probably do like my normal range and then maybe do like a background falsetto depending on how it feels and what works. It's all about, like I said before in some of my other videos, I really struggle with vocals, and it has to hit. Like if it's not hitting, then you just got to start over. Like it has to be 100% there. And I'm not afraid to go back and redo this 20 times if I have to get it right. It has to be good. Like vocals you cannot fuck up on, because that's what people are going to notice as being off or off-putting. It has to be on all the time. So wish me luck. Hold steady, my love. Follow the stars above. Uncharted waters we've come. Alright, getting into it a little better. Not quite there. Needs more filling. Needs more air. Alright. Hey everyone, so it's been a couple weeks since I was dropping some vocals on the track, and I figured it'd be kind of boring if you were just sitting here watching me go through each verse and stop and record, so I kind of just like jumped the gun. I've recorded all the vocals for this track, chorus and verses, and I'm going to play you what I got. I think it's pretty cool. So one of the things I did when like doing vocal research, which is really important if you're doing vocals, is to like research. At least for me, what I found has been really good is I research singers that I think have like a similar range or can do similar things as me. Not necessarily like exactly the same, but it gives me some concepts. For an example, I'm a big Damon Albarn fan, and from Gorillaz and Blur and Good, the Bad, and the Queen, and I like his stuff a lot musically, and I also really like where his range is on his vocals. I think it's very similar to what I can do. So I have jumped into his music, I have studied it, and he does a couple different things. Because of his range and where he sits, he has like a soft voice in basic terms, similar to me. So when you're doing like hard rock or gritty kind of passages or heavy guitar stuff, your voice can't really cut through that well, and that was something I struggled with when I was doing metal and singing on Cyborg Planet stuff, which is the space metal project I used to be in. And I realized there's things you can do to cut your voice through those kind of tracks, and I use a lot of those strategies even on stuff I'm doing now. And not necessarily that my voice can't cut through it, but it gives it a different dimension, or it might sit better on a track depending on what music is being paired with it. It's just like anything else, it's practice and going through and doing a lot of tracks and getting to know what could work here that would work better versus somewhere else. And one of those things that I like to do is I like to do like the megaphone or like telephone voice kind of thing. And David Armstrong does this a lot. And I realized I think he does it too because it works well for his voice, but he also does it as I think as like a way to crutch through different passages where his voice might not sit on top of the music. And doing the telephone kind of style can cut through it and give it a cool feel, depending on what you're going through. So I kind of went with light telephone segment on these verses, and I did that specifically because I didn't think it was sitting well with the range and tone of like some of the strings and some of the lower parts of the song. And when doing that, I tripled my voice, so I have a straight shot of my voice without any effects on it other than like maybe a little reverb and compression, And then I did the telephone voice as like the main backing, and then I did a telephone distortion underneath to help push that up over top of the music. And I think it worked really well, so I'm going to play that for you. I only did it on the verses. I did not do it on the chorus because I want the chorus to hit really hard. I did double and triple my voice on the chorus just so it's more punchier. And again, this is just like stuff I've come to find out works for me, and I'm still experimenting. Like every time I do something, I'm learning new things of what I can do with my voice. And it wasn't to say that I had to do telephone on this, but the telephone kind of style in the verses, but I think it kind of fits with like the Lost at Sea kind of aesthetic that I was going for with this song. And it just kind of, it fell in it. I feel it worked out pretty well. So I'm gonna play this through for you, the full track, so you can get an idea of what everything sounds like. All right, here we go. Sometimes I was throwing little falsettos just as like highlights at the end just to fill out the verse more. And that's a good strategy that's been working for me. I always find verses to be the hardest parts, honestly. This is the chorus. Follow the stars above. Uncharted waters we've come. They swim down in the blue. The sirens calling to thee. Enchanted as one can be. I'm not sure about that enchanted line yet that I wrote in. I was afraid it might be too cheesy. I'm really concerned about stuff being too cheesy. And sometimes it takes a lot of listens before I like get a really good grasp on what I think that might be. Hold steady, my love. Follow the stars above. Uncharted waters we've come. And now we're going into the outro verse, which is I did differently, a lot of falsetto stuff, and I think it kind of feels nice. I also added some ambient textures behind on phrases. Like I mentioned flare gun, and I have like a little flare gun sound goes woo! And just like, that's kind of where I'm at now, is adding more of like these subtleties in to build the story. The tide has lifted, we're taking notice. Hold steady onward and discharge the flares. Cut through the waters, it's beyond our fears. Strap in a tether, we're going down here. I never told you the love we shared. It's big and beautiful. Hold on to your hair. There's a sub bass at the end as it takes us out. Sub bass really works well on this song, especially on like pushing the chorus forward. that's it. So one of the things I did mention is like lyrically, I say some things in here like I was talking about sirens in this one verse, and I used the phrase enchanted, and I'm like, is that cheesy? It might be cheesy. I thought it was cheesy after I put it down, but now it's grown on me a little bit. It doesn't seem as cheesy. And those are one of the things, that's like one of the things with writing vocals I want to be really careful about, because when writing this kind of music, at least from my perspective, and whatever you want to call this style of music, gothic pop rock, ambient, atmospheric, even some witch house, that's kind of the way I describe it. But like a lot of like gothic kind of tone stuff, it's so easy to follow it, just fall into like the cheese pit, and I don't want to do that, because I'm very cautious about that, because I think that could really ruin music, and it ruins it for a lot of different audiences, and I don't want that to happen with this kind of stuff. I want this stuff to be taken seriously, you know what I mean? And like with serious elements, I don't want there to be cheese elements. And I do realize that works for some styles of music, and I'm not knocking on it. Like, I like music that has cheese factors. Like, I'm a big power metal fan, for instance. I like Symphony X a lot, and they're amazing musicians, but they do get in like that cheese factor when you're singing about like, taking the castle down and charging into the sunlight. There's some cheese factor to that, but it's okay, because it's part of the charm of like what makes them so great in that genre. But I find that a lot with this type of style of music, that people fall into like a cheesiness factor, and that's the word I use for it. And that can easily be done with lyrics. Like, they're over the top, they're not really like thought out. So that's something I think a lot about, and I probably listened to this track now since I last recorded it like a good 20 times or something like that, just cruising around in the car. And I might change that enchanted line, because to me it sounds a little cheesy. Although it's grown on me, I don't want someone to listen to that track and be like, oh man, that track was killer, but when he's talking about enchanted sirens, that seems kind of cheesy. I don't want that to pull people out of like the story building. So that's something I'm concerned about on this track. And it's like a minor detail. Like, nothing's going to be perfect, and everyone's going to have a different opinion, and that might not bother anybody, but it's bothering me. So like, it's my music, I want to make sure it doesn't bother me in that process. So now I feel pretty confident about these vocals. Actually, I wasn't really sure about this track when I first wrote it, and I had no idea how I was going to throw vocals down. I was actually a little scared about it because it's so slow moving, but I'm actually really, really happy with how it's come out. Like, I'm shocked. It's actually pretty okay. And so now the last part of this, and I've already started that, is just adding in some atmospheric kind of stuff that I like to do to, pronunciate like maybe vocals, or maybe just like where there's like a bridge delay, I might add in a little flair. It could be drums, it could be just like things that connect better and make it more unique, so that the track stands out more on its own. And I always like doing it at the very end. Like, this feels pretty finished, but I'll do some subtle audio cues and stuff like that for as much as I can do. As again, I'm probably going to send this out to be mixed and properly handled, and there'll probably be changes in that process, but I just like to do that as like a final little icing on the cake. Go the extra mile and make it stand out. So I hope this has been like interesting to you. I know watching the artist's process is pretty wild, and everyone's process is different, and I'm like self-taught with music for a big majority, so anything I learn I've just done on my own, or have learned from listening, or taken a class, or YouTube videos, or vice versa. So, and just listening to a lot of music. Like, I believe very strongly with no matter what kind of art process you do, if you're not immersed in it prior to like getting into it, like for music, for instance, listening to a wide array in different genres will only help your content be better, and it's so important to just listen to as much as you can, because your stuff's only going to get better. Your stuff's only going to be better when you write music from your back knowledge. Same with filmmaking, same with painting, same with any kind of art process. It's obvious to me too. Like, I'll listen to something, or I'll see something like a film or something, and I'll be like, this person obviously has made, like, for example, a horror movie, but they have never seen any of the classic horror movies, and they've never seen anything that would have them like have a basis for how to make a horror movie, and it's very obvious. And that's the same thing with music. Like, it really is. And I know I get super pretentious a lot with this kind of stuff, And that's something I'm working on because I'm a pretentious person. I'm working on it, but like it's important like to know the history, especially when you're dabbling in a genre of music. Like know your history, know and grab from like different genres and pull it in. Like I'm trying to pull in a lot more ambient, atmospheric stuff because I love ambient music, and I feel like this kind of genre of gothy, rock, witch house, electronic, whatever you want to call this thing that I'm building here, can only benefit from those kinds of sounds and combining them. And I'm really actually hoping to have more atmospheric instrumental pieces too to accompany this. I don't want it to all just be singing. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens when I get a couple more tracks together with this project. So anyways, thanks for tuning in. I hope this was interesting. If it is, maybe I'll make a couple more. But yeah, thanks again. Check me out. I'm mainly on Instagram. And follow and subscribe down below to see my next videos and support me. I have the Birds LPs up for sale in the shop if you want to buy it. I only have a couple left, so that's a good way. Just purchase my music. I don't have anything out yet for this project. I've been teasing this Halloween song concept idea, but it depends how it gets completed. I'm not like really excited about it right now, but if it comes more full circle, I might put out a track for Halloween. We'll see. No promises. So until next time.